sipping low key. I'm sipping low key and honest, my rider. I get those goosebumps every time. I get those goosebumps every time. I need the hype, throw that to the side. I get those goosebumps every time, yeah. When you're not around, we can throw that to the side. I get those goosebumps every time.
Off the mugs.
Yes, sir.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to Loaded Mag NUFC. We're back again very shortly after last night's celebration of the win, finally, into the quarterfinals of the Carabao Cup. And we're here to preview it all again because we've got another monster fixture at the weekend. And, of course, I've got the main man, Daz Shocks, with me. How you doing, Daz?
Not too bad, Pete. Not too bad. Happy Halloween, everyone. Everyone's out trick-or-treating tonight or wherever you may be later on, or maybe you've done it already. It's all done in the bag. But yes, we collected a nice draw in the Cup yesterday. I'm sure we'll get into that, a bit of that as well, as did Arsenal, of course. Arsenal as well, still in the Cup. But we'll get the lads on to talk about.
Let's do it. Let's get them on. It's an absolute pleasure to welcome back, as my dog's barking, Newcastle United right back and former England international, Warren Barton. Let's get him in. Oh.
No, that's the butts. There's Warren Barton.
You're going to do that.
Yeah. Very well. That was Halloween there. That was a Halloween before and after. Scary. Pleasure to be on, gentlemen. Pleasure to be on.
Lovely stuff. Great to have you. And of course, you've already seen him. Regular on the channel, and absolute pleasure to always welcome back the football's 12th man zone, Mr. Dan Potts.
Welcome, Dan, as well.
Big up, gents. Big up, gents. I mean, you know, I thought I was the good-looking one, but apparently not. Serious commitment from Warren to bring on his Halloween mask tonight.
Yeah, I did it. Yeah. It's the hair as well, Danny. Don't start, son, because you'll be the one crying in your pumpkin at the weekend. So you'll be the one crying.
I don't know, man. Listen, Warren's a gooner, you know. So I guess he wants Arsenal to win. Do you know what I mean? So
that was many years ago. Many years ago.
Switched now. Okay, switch allegiances now. Now, big up, man. Big up for coming on, and big up for having us on. Big up to all of you in the chat. Make sure you're liking. Make sure you're subscribing. And pleasure, man. Pleasure. Oh, Mini Pete. Look at this.
My little boy comes and joins live on. He's just done his trick or treating, so he wanted to show me what he's got.
Hey, Jackson, we can see it.
That's my man.
Yeah, but we're going to talk football because we were both involved last night in a fixture, big fixtures. We beat Chelsea 2-0 at St James's Park. And you guys absolutely destroyed Preston North End, and ultimately it set up this. This is what we have as the quarterfinals. Big fixtures for both, winnable fixtures for both. Potts, I'll come to you first. From an Arsenal perspective, Man City are out. You're confident you can win it?
Well, we got to, haven't we? We've got to now. I feel like it's a must for Arsenal and Liverpool. I think it's ours to throw away. I think if you look at the squads, we're definitely the strongest on paper, but it don't always work like that, bro. It don't always work like that. It's cup, and it's cup games, and it's cup competitions. And you know my thoughts on Mikel Arteta. He needs to win a trophy this season. And I think why not go for this one? You know, it breeds confidence. Jose Mourinho and Pep Guardiola used to say, win that one because it's the first one you win, and then you go and win the majors after it and the proper ones after that. And I think Arsenal need to get across the line. And if it is a trophy that we are in, we need to take it seriously, man. And 31 years since we won this trophy is too long for a club the size of Arsenal, in my opinion. So I've always said that we have potentially disrespected this trophy. And then when you haven't won something for 5 years like us, you can't be disrespecting or throwing trophies in the bin. So, yeah, I'm confident that we can go all the way. I actually have you in the semi-finals as well. I think you'll get past Brentford, and I think that Arsenal will get past Palace. Then it's really a flip of a coin between Spurs and Man United, but I expect Liverpool to get past Southampton. So it's going to be really interesting to see what this semi-final does, but we have to do the job in the quarters first. And Arsenal have, at the moment, shown that we do have a little bit of squad depth, perhaps not enough to get through all 4 competitions, but certainly we saw last night with some of the performances from the lads that was really impressive, particularly Ethan Nwaneri, man, because this boy is a baller, 17 years old. Time to give him a chance, Mikel. It really is.
Hell of a goal.
I think there's a lot of big clubs. You know, you're saying, Dan, you haven't won a trophy for 5 years. It's been a lot longer for Newcastle, and I think Eddie needs to win something, or get back to a final. And because of the not being in Europe, we're not in Europe. It's an ideal opportunity to go early with it, because it is a competition that you can win in February, I believe. So January, February time. So if you do that, you've still got enough games to try and make up, to try and get into Europe, Champions League, whatever it may be. So, and also look at the other clubs, like you said, Liverpool. Shot one will want to win a trophy sooner rather than later. At Liverpool, he'll want to win something. So, we're probably, you're right, Danny, about 5-6 years ago, people was playing the kids, and maybe if you got to the final, you might do it. I think because of the pressure that you've seen on managers, they do want to win it. And you're right, Mourinho used to do it straight away when it takes the pressure off. Pep did it straight away and made consistently doing it. And I think as players as well, you want to get to a final, you want to experience, winning a trophy for that club. So I think it's gone as important now for a lot of clubs as it is, doing well in the league. So managers are judged on silverware. And for our extent, we need to get there as well. Brentford again, and like you said, Palace are not easy games. We all know that, but when you're in a cup competition, you want to be at home and keep away from another big rival. So that game is. I said it the weekend. I did another podcast with someone and said that losing to Chelsea was disappointing, but the bigger thing is to beat Chelsea midweek. And yes, it wasn't great to lose to Chelsea at the weekend, but I'd rather have that and get into a cup competition and go deep in that. So hopefully, fingers crossed, like you said, we'll be going to Wembley.
What did you make of the performance, Warren? Obviously, there's been question marks about the performances all season. We were picking up points, not playing well. Then we were playing better and we weren't getting the points on the board. There's been question marks about the midfield, about the attacking line, particularly against Brighton. What did you make of the performance last night? And is that potentially the lineup that needs to go forward into the Arsenal game at the weekend?
No, I think he will freshen it up. I think it's important that, I said at the beginning of the season, and like any club that wants to be successful, you start judging everybody by November, December, probably October time. We being Newcastle, are still in that grey area. Like we lost a couple of games at home. We had 20 odd shots against Brighton, but couldn't find the back of the net. But you should be winning them games. I know Brighton are a good team, tactically, but we should be beating them teams if we've got aspirations of being in the top 4 going forward. So from that point, I thought it was a professional performance. I thought it was a solid performance. I'm still like you. I want to see Bruno Guimaraes further up the field, because I think he can hurt teams more than sitting deep. If I'm playing against him at the moment and he's that far away from the goal, it doesn't bother me. When he gets in that final third, I think that's when he can cause problems, whether it's a pass, whether it's a shot himself. So we need a little bit more mobility in that midfield area. I mean, Joe Linton was excellent yesterday. So I think, Longstaff is proving a point that sometimes it's a loss. But if you're banking on a season to have Sean, and I like Sean, I think he's a good player, but there's a little bit more to that. We need to get the firepower going. Gordon wasn't involved, obviously, against Chelsea at the weekend. Isaac's now scoring a few goals. But like Danny said, we haven't got the depth like the other top 3 or 4 teams have. Another thing that I'm a little bit concerned with being is like the young kids. You're saying about Arsenal, they've got a good young player coming through. Man United have had good young players coming through. I want to see, I know Lewis has been injured and he's prospect, but it should just be one. It should have like 2, 3, 4 coming forward. When I was there, you had Steve Watson, you had Steve Howie, you had Lee Clark, you had Robbie Elliott, you had Steve Harper. Them players that was good professional players that served the club really well. So, we haven't had the younger players, the burst of younger players coming forward. But, back to your point, Danny, I'd had to give him a chance, but Arteta's job is about winning and getting a trophy. So is it a time to throw a young kid in and see how it is? But like, I think all of us on this call, if he's good enough and he's young enough, put him out there and play him. Odegaard is missing, so there's a void there. But I said it, like I said, Pete, I think it was a good performance. I think any time you beat a Chelsea team, home or away, it's a good result. And, whether all their big boys was playing, it doesn't matter. We got the performance and the result, which was the main thing. The result was the main thing.
Definitely. Yeah, that result is definitely the main thing for us. We needed it. And how are you feeling today after that? Are you feeling a little bit more relieved, a little bit more relaxed going into the game on Saturday? Because, there was a little bit of edginess losing to Brighton, knowing that we had Chelsea and Arsenal to come in the league. You're feeling a little bit more, not say confident, but a little bit more at ease going into that game, knowing we're in the next round of the Cup.
Yeah, I mean, that's
actually.
Sorry, go on. Sorry, guys.
That's I am a bit like I'm kind of full of questions today because like last night we were running through and I'm really looking forward to our team selections tonight when we go to the board and go to the team selections because we were trying to put together a team last night as in who should play against Arsenal, but I've chopped and changed it a few times in my head again today. So we want to get it's very interesting to get Warren's take on who should start against Arsenal and to combat whatever Dan throws at us. Definitely.
It doesn't matter what they throw at us. We're at home. We should beat them.
Yeah.
Should is a massive word, Warren.
Yeah,
should is a big word, bro.
Danny, say is another word. It begins with F.
I missed Warren, man. Warren.
But look, Warren makes a good point. Newcastle United are at home, and it doesn't matter who we come up against. We do expect to give that team a game, and we do expect to win. And we did beat you guys at St James's Park last year. From your perspective,
got over the line, Pete. Yes, we got over the line.
Yeah,
we
just
got
over the line. Just over the line
twice.
Was the Ollie Watkins one out at the weekend? I'm just asking.
Yeah, definitely. There was
that one definitely was, but Joe Williams definitely wasn't. All right, cool.
Clear daylight.
Let it go.
Clear daylight. But Dan, on a serious note, as an Arsenal fan, you drew the last couple of games. You're chasing the pack with Man City at the moment and Liverpool. Is it a must-win for you? And in addition to that, are you worried about coming to St James's Park Saturday lunchtime kickoff? Always sometimes a tricky fixture for teams coming away from home.
Yeah, it is, man. Look, I went there last year for my birthday weekend. It's my birthday weekend again. And last time it kind of ruined my birthday. So I hope it doesn't this time. Listen, it's a tough game, man. It always has been. I've never looked at St James Park as a breeze. I think it's one of the best stadiums to go to. I think it's one of the best cities to go to. And I'm gutted I'm not able to get there this time. 12:30 kickoff. Come on, man. I can't get there. I've got stuff to do on a Friday night. So, yeah, I'm not going to be able to get there this time. But, look, it weren't a great trip for me last year. However, I do feel that this is a little bit of a different Newcastle. I felt at the time Newcastle and Arsenal, Newcastle was still really up there. Like they were like really, really confident. They were in the Champions League. If you remember, you were flying, I think around this time you're playing PSG and it was all going mad. And we were like, oh my God, Newcastle are really serious this season. And then the injuries depleted you later in the year. But back then I thought it was a game where we were very, very negative and going through a style of play where we weren't looking very fluid. And there's been kind of similarities this season in certain games and in certain fixtures. We've definitely been able to get the better of teams. Look, I'll go into this game at the moment with one thing different. Our players are coming back now. We've had some serious problems, injuries. I think you were very similar to it last year. We were actually getting to a stage where our bench was actually warming up with kids I'd never heard of, if I'm honest with you. There's a few at the Emirates that were warming up and then people were looking around me going, Dan, come on, who are they? And they're asking me. And I'm like, you think I know? I ain't got a Scooby. They're like 12 and 13-year-olds they looked, And I'm thinking, who are these? So, look, I feel like it will be a tricky one. I do feel that it might be time for Ethan Nwaneri. And the reason I say that is, Warren makes a good point that maybe you shouldn't be throwing in kids when you're trying to win trophies. But there's 2 points. One, if you're good enough, you're old enough. And two, I understand Phil Foden was moulded in, but he did have KDB, David Silva and Bernardo Silva ahead of him. Like even when there he has got Erdegaard, who's currently injured, and then Trossard, who's been asked to play there. It's a little bit of a different scenario. And at the moment, he's not let any other side down. Like he's literally been given his chance. He scored a brace against Bolton, an absolute worldie last night. He's been one of the better players when he's come on from the bench. He's also lifted the team at times where we've needed to be lifted. At 2-2 against Leicester, he came on with 10 minutes to go, lifted the team. We won the game by 4-2. I do think that this is something special in this kid. And I've seen kids come through Arsenal for years and years that some have looked pretty good. And I've gone, yeah, they could make it. I haven't gone to many that have looked this special. The only ones I've ever looked at and thought, wow, are Bukayo Saka, Jack Wilshere, and Ashley Cole. And this kid is right up there with them every time I've seen him because he looks one of the best on the pitch. He's confident, he's fearless, he's comfortable on the ball. The composure's there. He don't look rash or lose his head. He doesn't look at moments you think, oh, yeah, do you know what? You can tell he's young. He fits in wonderfully. And it's, yeah, a real special talent. So I'm expecting to see him at the weekend. Probably won't start him. I don't think Arteta will, but certainly will be involved in the game, Pete. So, yeah, man, quietly confident. Rumours of Erdegaard as well coming back into the mix. And you ask me if it's must win. I don't just think this is must win. I think Newcastle and Chelsea away are both must wins for Arsenal now. I don't think we can drop any more points against Chelsea or Newcastle after the Bournemouth, Brighton, City and Liverpool results dropping points in them games, man. That's 9 points dropped already. We're only 9 games in. So, yeah, we've got to get 2 must-win games in the Premier League now.
Yeah, it has to be sort of like a near perfect season when you're coming up against Man City, and to do that so early on, you are giving yourself a mountain to climb. And we're in a similar situation with Newcastle. Like there are fans, sections of the fan base that are saying, "Don't worry, there's a long season ahead." But when you're chasing a pack that are currently playing well, you don't want that gap to get any bigger. And that's what we've been saying on this channel for Newcastle. You don't want that gap to get any bigger. Arsenal are exactly the same. And look, I'll come to you, Warren, on this one with regards to Arsenal. And I'll ask you the question just really simply. You know, they've gone back to back in a title race with Man City. From what you can see of Arsenal, can they win the league this season, in your opinion?
This season, yeah, it's still possible. Not impossible, but it's looking very, very difficult. I mean, you know, when we did it, when we went back to back with Manchester United, we then went the other way. We sold some of our players, people like Ginola and Ferdinand, and we sort of rebuilt it under Sir Bobby Robson. And it took us about 3 or 4 years to get back up there again to do that. I think their best chance was last year. I really do. I mean, the way that they was playing, the Southampton game, obviously at home was a killer. I was at the year before. I can't really remember, but last year was a good opportunity. I think they can, Arsenal, but I also think Liverpool can. I've got a fever with Liverpool. City, I think, are destined now for the Champions League. And again, all we can do as Newcastle is try and disrupt all of them. But City, what Pep's done is like now found another way to win rather than keep playing the sort of style of football. You know, he's got that machine up front where he can just throw the ball in and he can score from anywhere, and then someone will come back in, and et cetera, et cetera. So, I think everybody, and like Dan said, I mean, I was born a mile around the corner from Highbury. My dad was an Arsenal fan. My brother's an Arsenal fan. My eldest son's an Arsenal fan. So I'd love him to do well. And Arteta's rubbed on me now a lot better. I didn't particularly like, and I did it with Danny and the great Kevin Campbell when we had conversations about Arteta's, body language and how he behaved on the side of the field. You know, when you're an Arsenal manager, you have to perform a certain way, but that's the way it goes. And he's brought a certain style to the club. And but I just feel that to have a perfect season in the Premier League is difficult. It's only been done once, and that was Arsenal again with Wenger. So I'd love it as a neutral. I'm fed up with City doing it, but you've got to say, you've got to catch them. You've got to catch them and do it. But they've still got that bright Bournemouth performance. That looking at that game, you could tell within 10-15 minutes it weren't going to happen. And listen, I know I've been there. I went to Upton Park when we was flying, and we got beat by Tony Cottee in the last minute. And then we play Nottingham Forest. The game gets moved along. Ian Wine smashes one in. He's never done it before from 45 yards. So it can happen against you. And all of a sudden, instead of being 3 points equal, you're like 6 points behind now. Do you know what I mean? You've dropped points and they've gained it. So it's difficult when you've got at the time we had Man United, that machine with Fergie driving them on, and with Pep as well. He drives them on and makes them better. So as a neutral, I'd love to see it, Danny, but I just feel that it's a big gap. But I fancy Liverpool. I do fancy Liverpool this season.
Wow.
What are your thoughts, Potts? Like, obviously, with results and fixtures, everyone's opinions on their club change kind of from week to week, and your feelings and emotions do play a part in it. Where are you sitting now? You've heard what Warren's had to say about Arsenal. Where are you sitting currently on Arsenal's bid for the title? Can they do it? Do you see them doing it? Are they two different things, two different answers to give? Where are you sitting, mate?
They are two different answers to give. Of course, we can win the league because I don't feel like City and Liverpool are levels above at the moment. I don't look at Manchester City or Liverpool or Arsenal and go, wow, who's catching either of them? They look fantastic. Man City don't look the same. They've lost Rodri. They've still not got no KDB. Foden, something's going on there. He's nowhere near the level. Liverpool have got a new manager. I still feel they're short, similarly to Arsenal. In terms of squad depth, I think if they were to lose one or two players, I'm not quite sure they replace them. I think Arsenal are exactly the same. If they were to lose a Saka or a Saliba, I think they'd struggle. And if Liverpool were to lose a Salah or a Van Dijk, I think they'd struggle, right? So January could be key. There's lots of rumours that all three clubs are going to be active in January. The problem I've got, Pete, is out of the three, I think we're the ones that are probably more likely not to be. And the other two might, because we've seen the January transfer window of Arsenal, and everyone says it's the winter window. To Arsenal, it's just called January. And we go again in February. We ain't never done it, have we, really? We always seem to just fall short. So, look, I said when the summer window shut, we ain't winning the league because I didn't think the ownership and the board was serious. I thought that a striker and an attacking midfielder would have got us across the line, and I don't think we got either of those. Ethan Nwaneri, potentially, yeah, that could change my mind, but we're still a striker short. I like Kai. I think he's done really well. At the back end of last season, I think he's got a goal every 2 games, which is great, but he's the only option we've got. Jesus and Sterling, I need to see more from. And like I say, any big injuries to the players that I think are going to be key to us would be a bit of a struggle. But Mikel Arteta is under serious pressure because I'll tell you this, if we don't win the league, I don't actually just put it down to Mikel Arteta because I don't think we've been serious in the window. So it goes to the board, the Edus, the Cronkies, the ownership as well, right? But if we don't win a trophy, it's down to Mikel Arteta because this squad's good enough to win a trophy. It is. One of the 4 that we are in, we are good enough to win one of them. And if we don't, I think Arteta's got to look at himself and think, how can we go 5 years now, £800 million spent, and still have nothing to show for it? And that is coming towards 8-9 years we were hounding Arsene Wenger out, who was successful for majority of his 22 years. How can we then be hypocritical and go, this guy still needs more time? It might be that Mikel Arteta has done a wonderful job to get us to this point, but we might need someone to get us across the line. But that's a conversation not for now. That's for May, in my opinion. But we're good enough on our day. Of course we are. With our players back, I'm expecting it. The one thing I'll say lastly, I don't think our fixtures have been kind, and I'm not normally one to make excuses for that. I don't normally sit on podcasts and moan about the ref and VAR and moan about fixture lists and all that. Everyone plays everyone twice, and everyone gets hard in good times, right? But this new format in the Champions League is really bitten us in the backside because we went 4 away games and we've now got 4 away games again. Preston away, Newcastle away, Inter Milan away, Chelsea away. That's difficult. Off the back of just having a few weeks ago, we had City away, Villa away, Spurs away, Atalanta away, all in a row. So I'm like, come on, man, this must be enough now. Surely we've got some home games coming up. So I think it's been difficult. We've got through unscathed in majority of those, and we've let ourselves down for a couple of times. But look, man, can we do it? Yes. Will we? I still feel we'll fall short, man.
Has anyone got any idea why they changed it with the Champions League? Because it seemed perfectly normal to me. It seemed perfectly fine. Why has this league now come into fruition? Is it money? I don't know. Because all the games are the same.
Money.
You know why, Warren?
More games.
You know why? I'll tell you why. Money, but also the first stage to a Europa Super League thing that they want. They want this European Super League. That is the new format, mate. So they want money and they want to see. And what the problem we got is because fans are so dumb, they're all going, oh, this is so much better. This format is brilliant. But that's what they want to hear. So they're like, yes, brilliant. Everyone loves it. Let's get a European Super League.
But it is, Potts. I think you've made a really good point. It is that next step onto the potential Super League. But actually, what it is, it's almost like a sure thing for the top teams to get into the knockout phases, because now you've got 8 games. Like, and Warren, you'll know this because we all Newcastle followers would have covered it last season. You look at our group stage: AC Milan, Dortmund, PSG, right? The absolute ultimate group of death. But now you look at Villa's fixtures in comparison in that 8, and they've got 3 or 4 winnable fixtures within that half of their fixtures. So, and they only need to win half of their fixtures almost to pretty much qualify. Now they're doing even better than that, and fair play to them. They're smashing it right now. But if Newcastle United had had that type of fixture list, even if it had gone on into January, forget the injuries for a second, going up against lesser in a respectful way as possible opposition, we would have picked up more points. What we did against PSG away, what we did against them at home, what we played well at points against AC Milan. But if you're doing that to Club Brugge or Young Boys or Bologna, for example, we're picking up points. And then you take all the other teams on top of that, your Man Cities, your Liverpools, your Arsenals, your Real Madrids, and various others. They are going to pick up enough points to get qualification. They don't have to win every week. And that's
the only problem there, Pete, is can you imagine the squad we'd have then? Because with the amount of injuries we were picking up as it was, we would be down in the under-14s playing in the Premier League. But it's just we weren't ready for it. It did come too soon. We all wanted it, but it just came too soon. But I agree with your point. The draw was the killer for us.
Definitely. It was the easier way. But look, I know there's a few questions coming into the chat, so we'll before we get to putting out the team next and seeing what the team's like and getting into predictions and so on. Let's see what questions people are putting for Dan and Warren.
Well, do you want a 2-footed challenge question here, Warren? Because Seb has gone in 2-footed here. He goes, he does redeem himself with his follow-up, but he goes, Warren, do you remember that game we lost 2-0 to Arsenal when you got dispossessed? Arsenal scored and you got dropped the next game. Wow.
It was a quality game, that, Warren. I enjoyed that one.
I knew you were going to do that.
Yes, the little rat Winterburn nicked the ball off me, and Ian Wright scored. And I got absolutely hammered by Kevin Keegan at halftime. So, thank you very much. I do remember that, I didn't ever try and flick it over Winterburn's head ever again in my life. So, that was one. I do remember it.
He does redeem himself though. He goes, you were a great right back though. I'll also remember your performance in the Barca game. So fair play, Seb, for that
one bad game out of 550 is not bad, Dan.
Very consistent, Warren. You were, mate. Very consistent.
Very consistent. Consistently average.
Oh man, I didn't say it.
Never.
One from Tom Dixon. He goes, question for Warren. What do you think of Newcastle's stat and not scoring from a corner for a while? It's like 50. How many corners we've got now? We haven't got anywhere near scoring.
Mid-50s.
I think we're in a make or break situation at the moment. We're not sure what the lineup is. As I said, we're going to go forward. We haven't played well, but picked up points. We played well and then got beat. We really need to start showing, or Eddie does, you're talking about people being under a bit of pressure. We need to start showing a bit of consistency of what we are and who we are and how we're going to play a little bit, because that high tempo, energy, high press is sort of drifted away. He's got, me and Alan Shearer said it at the Carabao Cup fight. It's not going to be this year when they're doing well and they're flying. It'll be when players are not playing who think they should be playing, who are big name players, and he spent money on players bringing in. And if they're not performing, then you've got to drop someone. So this is when you really find out how good you are as a coach. And, I was lucky enough with Sir Bobby. He was the best at this, juggled it around. If Lauren Bear wasn't playing well, he'd throw Kieran Dyer or throw Bellamy out there and put Shearer down the middle by himself, or throw Shola Amiobi next to him and things like that. So this is where we've got to find, because we're not doing particularly great set pieces. The clean sheets are there with Pope essential, but we're not playing and scoring the goals. And we've got a proven goal scorer. Isaac scores goals. So, and he's got to pull his finger out as well. So there's a little bit of self-reflect. We must do better, and we better start doing it sooner rather than later, because I said it before, the honeymoon is over. You said about Arteta, the honeymoon's over now for Eddie, the players, doing a lap of honour when you're beating Burnley 1-0 and all that things that was going on at the beginning. I mean, that's how low we was. So, now it's about winning games at home, challenging, competing, because you can't have your cake and eat it. You can't be lauded up and you're great and we'll stick with you. You've got to start performing now. And that's what we want to be able to do. That's what we didn't do for 10 years under Ashley. Arsenal have always, Chelsea's and Liverpool's have been consistently up there. They haven't been too much of a drop. I mean, I said it about when we finished second in the league twice. We had to go back and rebuild because we lost half of that team that went because we needed to rebuild and go again. But we ain't got time to do that now, not in the Premier League. Because if not, like you said, it won't be Arteta getting fired. It'd be someone else getting fired.
One more question, and then we go back again. So I don't know if we're going to take another question from Seb after that last one, but he says
Seb can piss off. Actually,
I'm just
we're not answering your question.
Seb, I used to like you. Now you can piss right off. Actually,
right, Seb, we can't take your question. We've got to Tom's question. What was your favourite game you played in when at Newcastle were?
The Barcelona, obviously, one was a great one. They always say your first love is a good one. So when we played against Coventry at home and myself, Les, Shaka, Ginola, that was a special moment. Beating Man United was good. 5-0 was great. But there was one performance I always go back to. It was the time we qualified for the Champions League. We played Nottingham Forest at home. They needed to stay up. We ended up beating them 5-0. And I had a pretty decent game this time, actually. A couple of assists and done quite well. I wasn't as crap as you may think I was, Seb. But we ended up winning 5-0. We got in the Champions League. And Sunderland and Middlesbrough both got relegated on that weekend. So it was a pretty good weekend. But that was a good, perfect day, if you could have a perfect day. So, yeah, knowing that you're in the Champions League, having a good game and knowing your big rivals have suffered and going down another division. But, yeah, I mean, lucky, 220 games, I enjoyed every minute of it. People know that. Danny knows that when I've spoken to Kev on the podcast. It's a great football club. I love it. And that's why I love coming and talking to fans and people about it, because we're starting to get that feel-good factor. And like Danny said, it's a great city, great night out, great people, great football club. When you go in on the train, it's the first thing you see at St James's Park. So, special club.
Newcastle's my favourite place outside of London, man. 100%. Like, London for me is always going to be the best city in the world because I've enjoyed so much there. But
it's the only place where people understand you, Dan. That's the only place. That's what it is.
Listen, bro, I'll go out of Essex and no one has a clue.
We've got to have a fucking subtitles for you underneath.
Mate, that's what I need. I go to Liverpool and they just look at each other like, anyone answers on a postcard? Like, anyone know? But
the Northerners don't like Cockneys. You know that up there.
They hate us, mate. You know what? I don't mind them. I don't mind them, but they don't like me.
Me and Rob Lee got on well up there. Don't worry about it. They look after you.
Next time I come up, I have to shout you, Warren. You have to come with me. You have to come with me. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, man. No, I love the place, man. I love the place.
Don't tell Lawless that though. It will start kicking off with you if you tell Lawless that.
He hates the fact that Newcastle fans bought me a drink last year. I always remind him and I wind him up. Right, we're at a bar in Newcastle. Say this story really quick. And I got my Arsenal shirt on, and I walked in, and I thought, I don't care if anyone. It's my birthday weekend. If anyone pisses me off, I'm just going to tell them to go do one. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, this group of Newcastle fans come on. I watch you all the time on YouTube. Let me buy you a drink. Great night with them. And Lawless hates that. He's a West Ham fan. He hates that. Oh, you shouldn't trust Newcastle. He's going and all this. So I always wind him up all the time, every time I speak to him, because he's a West Ham.
Hold on a minute. A West Ham fan saying you can't trust anybody.
Exactly, mate. Exactly.
Oh dear.
It's a worry, isn't it? It's a worry. Yeah. I'll have to clip this up, Pete.
Milk out your tea and come back for the sugar. That lot.
Honestly, mate, they are unbelievable. They're still crying about Declan Rice going to Arsenal. They are. They're still crying about that. But, it is what it is.
All right. Well, their coach is doing well at the moment. Good job getting rid of David Moyes. That was a good idea.
Right. Facts. I'm going to clip this up, Pete, and send it to Lawless, by the way, just to let you know.
Absolutely. But look, just before we get the tactics board out, Arsenal, any injury concerns? Any news on players that may or may not be fit and ready for the game on Saturday?
Sounds like the only doubts are, well, there's 4 players that are doubtful. Some are definitely going to miss, some we're not sure about. 2 that are definitely going to miss are Calafiori and Tomiyasu, but at the moment they're more squad players anyway. And Gabriel should be okay from what I'm hearing to start. He obviously come off in the Liverpool game with a knock on his knee, and it didn't look like he was going to make Preston, which he didn't, but there's rumours he's going to be okay. And then the big question is Martin Odegaard, whether he's going to make the bench or not. But don't expect him to start. There's rumours that he might be okay for Inter Milan and Chelsea, might not be ready for this one. So that's why I was mentioning Ethan Nwaneri starting. But yeah, look, they're the ones. Everyone else, from what I'm hearing, is fit to start, mate.
Okay. Well, the only absentees we've got at the moment, as far as we're aware, Murphy picked up a little bit of a hamstring injury. We're not sure how serious that is, but not likely to make the game. Obviously, we're waiting on news with regards to Wilson, not likely to make Saturday, but we don't know what's happening with him. We'll get your thoughts on that later on, Warren. And then we're obviously waiting on Sven Botman and Jamal Lascelles. They're not going to be back in probably till December earliest. But what we have is the tactics board. So what we'll do, we always start with the opposition to Potts. Put us out the 11 that you think are going to start. I've got the squad across the bottom. Who do you think is going to start the game for Arsenal, mate?
It's going to be hard in midfield, but I'll do what I think it will be. David Raya will be in goal. I think it's going to be a back 4 of Ben White at right back. The 2 centre halves, I think Gabriel will be okay. So it'll be Saliba, who's back from suspension, and Gabriel. And then at left back, I think it'll be Jurriën Timber. He was phenomenal when he was up against Salah. And when he come off, lo and behold, we conceded. He was absolutely fantastic. In midfield, this is going to be interesting. He's got to decide whether he wants to go with Partey, Rice, and Trossard, or whether he plays Ethan Nwaneri, but I think it will be Trossard in the 10. Or does he go with Marino and Rice? And I think he'll go with Declan Rice in the 6, Marino in the 8, and Trossard in the 10. Now, that's very harsh on Thomas Partey, who's been one of our better players in midfield. But I just think that this is the midfield he wants to go with. He brought Marino in to be that box-to-box, and Declan Rice is definitely better in the 6, in my opinion. I'm not sure I'm a fan of him in the kind of attacking midfield or attacking 8 position. Although I think he can drive on the football, we miss him when he's in the 6. He's more of a Rodri for us than a Gerrard or Lampard type player. Do you know what I mean? So for me, I'm going to go with Rice, Marino, and then Trossard in the 10. And then I think across the front 3, he'll go with Saka, Martinelli, and Havertz. But look, he's got options. He could play Nwaneri instead of Trossard. He can play Partey in the middle with Rice in the 8. But I just feel like he's going to go with Marino because I think he's been impressed by him and I think he wants to give him a run of games now. Very good against Liverpool, Marino was. And because it's against Newcastle, his old club, maybe he fancies starting him this time.
Yeah, it'll get good reception, Daz. You think coming back, Marino?
Oh, yeah, he will. He'll get a good reception. As long as he doesn't score against us.
Yeah, then it might change. But yeah, he was always well respected, loved at the club. And I think everyone was gutted when he left, to be fair. So yeah, the lineup is there. And look,
one thing, Pete, I will mention about this. If you took, apart from Saka, Trossard, Martinelli and Timber, every single one of them can score a header from a set piece. White, Gabriel, Saliba, Rice, Marino, and Kai Havertz are all absolute key for us in set pieces. And you'll see how Nicholas Yover, our set piece coach, has been given a lot of praise. From corners and free kicks, it's basically, it's like a penalty kick for us. Like the amount of times I feel so confident from us scoring from set pieces is mad. And I used to take the mick out of teams like West Ham and Stoke for set piece FC. And I'm not saying that we play anywhere near like that style, but we definitely have that in our locker. And set pieces are key. So that's something you'd have to watch out for in Newcastle.
Yeah, he had some good deliveries, didn't he? Rice putting the ball in there.
Yeah, he does.
He put a great ball because you think of him being on the end of it, but they put some great balls in there by the way they're lined up. So yeah, we'll have to watch out for that.
Definitely. Dan, should we get Warren to pick his team? What he thinks might be there?
Yeah, and I can criticize and critique Warren's selections. Then it's kind of funny because I remember picking my all-time Newcastle team, and Warren was in a right back. So now we get to pick a team together. This is
fantastic, fantastic. We'll put Shay Given in goal.
Yeah,
agreed.
Agreed. Got a strong fella called Shearer in front, but the goalkeeper speaks for itself. Pope. I think we missed him. Like I said, he's a choice. There's no Trippier at the moment. I think he's injured, but Livamente will come in there at right back. Do you agree?
Comes up for me.
Yeah, Fabian at centre half with Big Dan Burns, and I'll throw Lewis in there at left back.
Oh, he's been superb this season. What do you think?
I think he's going to have his hands full. There's no doubt about that. With next to him, I think he will go with the same three. I think he will go with Bruno deeper, the Italian stallion, and Joe Linton to help out Lewis on that left-hand side. I think he'll go with that. And please God, with everybody being healthy, I'd have Gordon out on that left-hand side to occupy White. I think to take him back and do that. Harvey Barnes on the right-hand side. I'd go there and push him, and then Isaac down the middle.
Love it. Good lineup there.
Do you agree? Do we get an agree with my partner? I've got to speak to my assistant coach to make sure. I mean, I'd like in midfield as well. I don't know. I think we'll have them, but I'm not sold on that midfield. What do you think, Coach?
Okay, right, Warren. You're halfway there.
Go on,
okay. I put Kelly in there instead of Barton. I think Kelly was unreal against Chelsea. I know he could be a bit tired after his midweek excursion, but I put Kelly in there and drop Big Dan Burn. I know that that will divide opinion. I do actually think Eddie will stick Dan Burn back in, but that's what I go with.
And our reason I'm saying that is set pieces. We need the big fella. Yeah. The big baby giraffe to head it away.
I'd agree. I'd play Dan Burn if I was Newcastle in this game. I would.
This is the difficulty, is that I think on the ground with the ball at his feet, pacing and behind, you probably go Lloyd Kelly, particularly after the way he played. But when you've got these two at set pieces, and we know how good Arsenal set pieces are, I'm up in the air. For me, I would go Kelly. And I think a lot of people would go Kelly, but for the points that you've mentioned, Warren and Pops, it's a tough one.
Havertz are never going to run away from you either. Havertz is not going to run away from you. So, but yeah, go on. That's what we're here for. Midfield.
I'm swapping Bruno and Tonali. I want to see Bruno now in the holding position. It just I think it suits him better and unleashes Bruno a bit. Then now there's a million different options. Then you could go with do you move Joe Linton out on the left, put Gordon back out on the right? I know then you're not making the best use of Gordon, but I don't know. But I definitely want Tonali in number 6 position. Let's say a defensive kind of midfielder kind of a role for him. What do you think, Pete? Midfield first.
Yeah, it's a tough one. You'd be inclined to go with that, to have that, but playing Joe Linton like we did the other night on that left-hand side, that was probably one of the best performances I've seen him play in a long time. And as we talked about on our reaction to the win, it almost reminded us, Warren, of what we saw when we finished 4th. Joe Linton kind of playing on that left wing. This is when we had Alan St-Maximin and he was injured. So Joe Linton would play there. And then what we did have, and I'll just move Barnes out for a second, is have Joe Willock in there. And that was almost Longstaff and Bruno swapped over. That was almost the front lineup that we saw against Chelsea. And it was so potent. So we had Isaac pressing in this area. Joe Linton was literally pressing in this triangle space with these 3 players. We had Gordon pressing high. So we had all these guys up here. Joe Willock was up. And then what it allowed is for someone like Bruno to pick up the ball and pick up the pieces in those areas. It was obviously Longstaff yesterday. I just think from that perspective, we've got pace, we've got power. and we've got players that can finish. Joe Linton scored 7-8 goals in that season from the left-hand side position. Isak, we know what he can do. Gordon, we know what he can do, albeit not in this position. I just think, for me, that would probably be, against this Arsenal team, the best way to go. David Raya is okay with the ball, but makes mistakes at times. You know, some of these boys are really confident on the ball, but with a high press, can we win the ball high up with a kind of a roaring atmosphere at St. James's Park? Can it make the difference? I don't know. What do you think, Warren?
No, I like it. And also, Willock against his old team. We said about, you know, playing against your old club and that, it brings you a lift out there. Yeah, I think he's been patient. Last time he come out there, got a bit of an injury earlier on. Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that. Joe Linton, you know, has got that ability and physical size against White. I mean, we have to make sure with Saka, because I'm a big fan of Saka. I think he's a wonderful player. I think he's a great player. So, you know, it may be. I think he couldn't put Big Dan Burns out there at left back. He'd get destroyed against him. So, you know, if it is, get the young kid out there and let him match up against him. Yeah. As I said, I wouldn't disagree with that. With Gordon,
and then you have Barnes on the bench to come on and change things as well, depending on how it's going.
Barnes, Longstaff.
I still go with Shearer, Ginola, Ferdinand, and Gillespie. I think we've got a better chance.
Can't disagree with that. But just before we come off the tactics board, Potts, I'll come to you. Obviously, you've set your Arsenal team up that in a particular way. For obviously the Newcastle fans in the chat, you know, where do you think Arsenal are going to be at their most potent? Where do you tend to break teams down? Where do you think, if you get the opportunity, you're going to cause problems to Newcastle?
Well, I mentioned set pieces, and I'll stand by that. I don't want to say that's the only way that we'll win the game, but I do think that we've got that in our locker. But our right-hand side, Pete, for sure. Bukayo Saka, mate, he absolutely turned. I think he pretty much retired Andrew Robertson last weekend, if I'm honest. He was so good against him, mate. It was incredible, mate. This player is one of the most disrespected kids in the league, man. I don't understand why people start to doubt I don't know what more he can do now. It's been 4 or 5 years that he's been carrying us and getting us across the line. And
Dan, it's a great thing, because I sat here with my son, who's a massive Arsenal fan, Milo, and he loves him. He loves him. And I said, like, if I was playing against him, he's not particularly quick. He's not strong. He doesn't move, but he's just got such a gift of balance and technique and soccer IQ. Like you said, it'd kill you, because you're thinking he's going one way, and I think, right, I'm going to show him down the line. You know, I'm going to show, and you know he's coming inside. And Gordon's Robertson's a top class player. He's won the Champions League. You knew he was coming inside, but yet he's got that balance to be able to do that. I'm old enough as well to remember a player called Liam Brady, who had that sweet left foot. Wasn't particularly quick, wasn't a great tackler, didn't score outrageous goals. But this kid is special, and you're right. He never gets really put in the same like as Foden. Like, I mean, I'm a big fan of Foden's as well. I think he's great. I think he's a good player. But this kid has done it. He's lifted Arsenal by himself, maybe because he doesn't really say a lot. He's not an Ian Wright. He's not a Thierry Henry. He doesn't, you know, come out and say too much. He just gets on with it. But he's a hell of a player. He's a top talent, mate. Top talent. And he's got us across the line. That's your main threat for sure. Look, don't sleep on Martinelli. He hasn't been on fire, but he can always turn it on. Martinelli's got that kind of pace and that delivery. He's tenacious. Problem with Martinelli sometimes keeps his head down too much. But there's definitely an opportunity 100% for that right-hand side. And that back four that we've got, I might get clipped up for saying this, so maybe I shouldn't say it, but I will anyway because I've gone now. That back four hasn't conceded many when it's played as a back four. There we go. We're going to win.
I've said it now, yeah. But Calafiori, when we brought Calafiori in and we started playing Timber over on that right-hand side, Timber looked mustard, but our positioning of Calafiori, as much as I quite liked him on the ball and off the ball, the positioning weren't great for him, and we found ourselves leaking goals. I think we conceded 1 against Southampton, 2 against Leicester, 2 against City, and there was another team, Bournemouth as well. Since we've basically had that back four has kept clean sheets at Villa Park, Spurs, against Wolves at home, and in the Champions League games as well. So I'm quite glad that back four are back together.
One thing I'll just say really quickly, Potts, is that don't listen to the people that are questioning Saka and calling him. They're the people that will be jealous. They'll be jealous of his ability. They'll be jealous of what you've got as such a young player. He's got years ahead of him, and they're rival clubs. They're never going to be. They're never going to.
You're right. You're right.
Against a team that are doing really well are going to be up there. They're just not.
I think what I take it though, Pete, is a compliment because he is clearly the benchmark. Because Chelsea fans say that Palmer's better. He doesn't even play on the right wing. Tottenham say that Kulusevski's better. He now doesn't play on the right wing. Both of those were clearly needed in the middle, right? Yeah. This kid don't move position. He's player every time because he's quite far one of the best. The only right winger that is better than Saka in the Premier League is Salah. That is it. None of the others come close, in my opinion. Not Kudus, not any of your boys, not any of Chelsea's, not any of Liverpool, nothing. It's basically Salah and Saka, and that's it. And there's a lot of people that don't like to say it. I don't know why. Maybe you're right. Maybe they're jealous of it. But this kid is special, man. He's a talent. And he ain't the only one we've got. Odegaard, Saliba, they're all mustard as well. But he is, for me, when he's on song, Arsenal win. And he's mustard, mate. He's top.
Dan, you just said it. Them group of people are all sharing the same brain. So you're fine.
Yes, mate.
Something like Dove's right though. Bremo at Brentford is up there, and he'll be rivaling Saka when he signs for the Black and Whites in January. That's what
you need. Do you know what? The first thing I thought was, wow, Newcastle need a right winger. That is so obvious to me. Like that is so obvious. Like I like Harvey Barnes and I like Gordon, but they're both on the left, really, aren't they? Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So, I think you need a creative midfielder and a winger for me because I like Tonali, Joe Linton and Bruno, but they're all destroyers, aren't they? They're all like the box to box or up and down. There's no one with the vision of Odegaard or the James Maddison or the Bruno Fernandes. Do you know what I mean? There isn't that player in that Newcastle midfield that you look at like that. So maybe that's what you need, man.
Definitely. I didn't even realize you're here. But welcome, Chris.
Big up, Chris.
Evening, boys. How you doing?
We're going to keep the time tonight, so I apologise, Chris. Obviously, late arrival. What we'll do? There's a few more questions for Potts and Warren, and then we'll do our predictions to see out the show. So, what additional questions have been put in the chat? I think there's been a couple more for the lads.
There has. Okay, this one for both the lads, for Dan and Warren. Comes from Brett C. And he goes, on a lighter note for Warren, which Tino do you think is more exciting to watch? Spria or Livramento?
Spria.
Nah. Yeah. 100% Aspria. Yeah. 100% Aspria. When I was growing up in the 90s, mate, he was mustard. Absolutely ridiculous.
We're talking about off the field, aren't we? With Tino?
No contest.
No contest.
You know better than this. Warren, no contest.
I was never there.
This one comes from Graham TC Travels, and he asked the question: think Hall is getting better by the game. What's Warren's thoughts on
Say again, who?
Lewis Hall.
Yeah. No, he's doing well with the under 21s. And again, another player that's had to be a little bit patient to get in there, but he's doing very, very well. And he's got good energy, he's got good desire to get forward. He's getting stronger and stronger. He just needs to be now consistently playing at a good level. But he's done very well. I think the games for the under 21s has given him a lot of confidence. He comes back to the group, and he's got a good coach. Eddie's great with younger players and developing them and giving them a good understanding and giving them some confidence. I like him. We've been crying out for a left back for a number of years, and hopefully, he can be still young enough for a good 5, 6, 7 years going forward.
Just an addition on that, we were having a chat last night, myself, Chris and Daz, and we talk about Lewis Hall, and we were looking at options. And Potts, you can come in on this. We're looking at genuine options for England on that left-hand side, and there doesn't seem to be many at the moment. We played Trent there in the last game. We had Rico Lewis that was playing there, who's not really massively familiar with that position. Do you guys see that there's a window in the short term maybe November, maybe in March internationals, where Lewis Hall, if he continues his form, he gets that promotion into the first team, a little bit like Tino Livramento has in the last two. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I maybe it's a bit harsh and people might not like it, but I don't know where the hell all the left backs have gone. Like, I really don't. Like, if you look at the last 2 decades, maybe 3 decades, you go back and you think, wow, some of the talent. You had Roberto Carlos and Paolo Maldini, and you had the Ashley Cole who come on the scene. If you try and do that now in world football in the last couple of decades, you're really struggling. Like, the talent's gone. I don't know where the hell they all are, these left backs. In terms of England,
they're
struggling.
more like inverted fullbacks now, aren't they?
That's it.
Traditional left back, and that's why I think Hall would get a chance, because he's more of a traditional left back. But now, you know, even detriment to Carl Walker, you need to come inside, and that's what happened with Trent Alexander, wasn't it? Like, you got to play him inside now. No, you know, it's depending how you're going to play. But you're right. The fullbacks that you used to have are ones that would go up and down and be out wide, and that's not a dinosaur talking. That's just saying that's the job of a fullback. But now, because of Pep, everyone wants to invert your fullbacks, so you have possession of the ball, so you're not taking the space of the wide players. But you know, you're taking a skill away and an advantage away of overloading on wide areas rather than overloading in the middle.
You're looking really at the moment, England-wise, like Luke Shaw and Ben Chilwell and all these guys we have been picking. Like, Tariq Mitchell and Lewis Hall are probably 2 better options, genuinely, at the moment. Like, and that's mad to think that, you know. So that's where I'm at.
It's coming home, boys. It's coming home, is it? I also have to say that as the Irish man on the panel. I also have to say that too. Right. There's 2 questions here I'm going to kind of combine, because Tom asked the question for both. Dan has had his thoughts already, saying right wing and a creative midfielder. But who do you think Newcastle should buy in the next transfer window? And Ali asked the question, who would you buy for Newcastle? So Dan and Warren, who would you buy for Newcastle?
Well, Dan said a good point that we need a right-sided player and a creative midfield. So Odegaard would be one, and Saka would be the other.
Sold.
You wish.
They would be the two.
Bro, you wish.
See if we can nick them. See if we can get them on a cheap at the January, because they don't do any business in January, so we might be able to get some business out of them.
What's that?
I'll give you 2 names if you want.
Go for it.
I don't know if they're realistic, but I'll give you 2 names: Eze and Mbeumo.
Yeah,
2 brilliant names. Yeah.
Would love that. Would love that. Would definitely solve some big problems in our team.
You might though need a striker, because when Isak signs for Arsenal.
No, I knew it. I knew we couldn't get out of show with Potts without him touting Isak to Arsenal.
you can have Shay Given. We give us Shay Given and Shearer.
Troy Gillespie.
And an Adrian right back. You can have a right back for a year.
we obviously we're coming towards the end, but let's just touch on that really quickly. What are our thoughts, Warren, Potts, Chris? You haven't obviously just joined us. Get your opinions on this as well. Is there a genuine chance that Isak goes to Arsenal next summer, or are you in the mindset that he's staying, signs a new deal in the summer? Where are your thoughts at? Potts, will start with you.
I think it all depends where Newcastle finish. If I'm being genuine, look, as an Arsenal fan with my Arsenal cap on, I hope he comes. He's my number 1. Him and Gyökeres are the 2 that I want at Arsenal, right? If we can't get one, they'll try and get the other. Isak's my number 1 because I love the guy and loved him when he was at Sociedad, and I wanted him, Pete. You know, me and you joked about it all for years ago when we bought him. I wanted him. Look, if he signs a new deal at Newcastle and he wants a release clause put in it, then that sounds to me that he probably ain't going to be here for much longer. If he signs a new and commits his future without one, then Newcastle look like they've got him for a few years. If this release clause rumor is to be true, it's not going to be 50 million. It's going to be 150 million or something like that, right? So it's going to be a hell of a lot of money. I think that it all depends on whether you finish in the Champions League this season or not. I don't know the Europa League will cut it for a player like Alexander Isak. At 24, is he now? He's going to want to play at the top level. He's going to want to be in Champions League football. And I think, I know for a fact through people that I know through the club, that Mikel Arteta is obsessed with Isak like he was Declan Rice. And that would worry me if I was a Newcastle fan. But look, it's all dependent on what happens in Newcastle this year. If you get Champions League, you can keep him and Bruno and the guys happy because that's what they want, right? That's what I think.
Yeah, no, the word is fear. I do fear because we have got to build on players like that. We can't afford to let, players, Bruno and him, I know they kiss their badge and all that stuff, which is great, but we've got to be playing elite football, wherever that may be, Champions League, obviously. So, again, it's a little warning to the owners. It's a warning to Eddie and to the group of players. You've got Botman, who's, when he comes back, hopefully from that injury, he's a Rolls Royce. He's a top-class player as well. So, we've, as I said, we've took some great steps going forward, but we've got to keep these players and not just, as soon as the player puts a release clause in for me, I remember Didier Mann did it when he came from Bayern Munich to Newcastle, and he had a release clause of 5 million. He was there a year, 12 months, 10 months, and he'd gone. And, I couldn't get my head around that. I couldn't understand that someone would sign it. I know it's the modern game and it's different, but when you sign for a club, to have that in there, it's like saying, well, I'm not sure whether it's like being with someone, but I don't want to marry you, but we live separately for a couple of years and see how it goes. That's, that doesn't sit well with me. So, Daniel, you're right. I'm concerned because he's a good player. He would fit perfectly into Arsenal's system, the way he plays, and he'd get a bundle of goals as well. And so, we've got to pull our finger out and we've got to do our best to keep him.
The only thing I would say, and Arsenal fans have said this, there's a lot of Arsenal fans that don't want him, because of his injuries. There's a lot of Arsenal fans that say to me, we're paying 120 million, he's going to get injured. Rather go and get Gyökeres for 84 million, who's never been injured in his career, by the way. Go and check it. Never had an injury, ever.
Yeah, but you know what happens then? As soon as you sign him, he's out there.
Like Timber.
It's always the way.
That is always the way. Yeah, that is always the way. But, But look, I love him, and I would love him at Arsenal. I genuinely think after Haaland, he's the best striker in the league. I stand by that. I still think he is when he's fit. Yeah. So I do want him, but it's all on Newcastle's season, I think. And look, boys, I tipped you for top 4 this year because I thought 1 game a week with your players fit, you had a great chance, but it ain't started that way. So it's going to be a long way now, long road, and that top 4 is going to be hard, man. Villa and Chelsea there, Liverpool, City, and Arsenal. That's, in my opinion, going to be the top 5. I don't see Newcastle getting Champions League football this year.
Well, can I just say, Pete, who asked him if I can come on the podcast? With fucking
get rid of him
like that.
Gone. He's gone.
Piss off to your own podcast. Go and listen to your Arsenal fans then, Danny. Go and listen to your Arsenal. Get your West Ham fans on there.
Yeah.
Go sit beside Seb on the Northern Side.
Go and have a fucking drink with Seb. Go and have a drink with Seb. You'll be fine. Mr. Doom and Gloom.
We've got you in the weekend, man. I can't give you all confidence, can I? Do you know what I mean?
That's true. Chris, your thoughts on it before we come to predictions in the show?
Yeah, so I do agree with Dan and Warren that I think where Newcastle finish is going to play a big part of it. But I also think there's a few other factors. Like I think it depends on the show of intention from the owners. If we were to go out in January and go and say, put 40-50 million pound down on a right winger or a centre midfielder, as the lads have discussed, that could change his mind at the end of the season. If we do manage to get Europa League, I agree with Dan when he says that it'll be difficult. But say to Alexander Isak, no, we're going to go and try and win the Europa League, and we're going to kick on. We're going to try and get in the Champions League, and we're going to go and buy 2, 3, 4 players to improve the squad. I think it's a show of intent from the ownership. I do think, because if it carries on the way that it has been, I'll be honest, and I'm sure you boys agree, like I wouldn't blame Alexander Isak for leaving, because he wants to win things. He's at that age now, 24, as Dan said. He wants to go and win things and play at the very, very top level. And I think when he was sold the project or the idea that Newcastle were going to be up there in time to come, it does feel like we've stalled a little bit in the last 12, 18 months. So I think if the owners come out and say, right, we've got our directors sorted, behind the scenes we're all sorted, everyone's in harmony, everyone knows what to do, and Paul Mitchell's got a clear idea of who he wants to get. We're going to get this, this, and this. All of a sudden, he might get excited and he might think, I want to be part of this. But there's a lot of factors. I do think Champions League football would help. There's no doubt. But I do believe that it's probably the show of intent from the owners more than anything. And backing Eddie Howe in the transfer windows.
Yeah, absolutely. But look, let's get down to the predictions then. We've done the lineups, we've had the conversations. Let's get down to it. So I'm gonna go 2-2. I'm gonna go for a Desmond. I think it'll be an entertaining game, but I think it's gonna be a 2-2 game for me. Daz, what are you going for?
I'm also going for a draw, but I'm going to double your score and go 4-4. Why not? It's been done before. No, I'm going to go 1-1 a draw, and I'd be delighted with that result. Chris,
I don't know. I feel like we could nick it, boys. I'm hoping that Chelsea game through the week. I'm hoping that's going to see a little resurgence in the team. And I've seen your boys. I've seen the lineup when I joined the show. I do hope we see a similar lineup. I think it's going to be incredibly tight. I know Arsenal are missing a couple of key players. I think we could nick it 1-0. I'll stick with 1-0.
Okay, 1-0. Potts, we'll come to you next as the Arsenal representative. What are you going for, mate?
I'm going to go 1-0 to the Arsenal. I think it'll be tight. I think we'll be resolute, compact. Last season, we saw it was more physical than attacking-minded play. I don't think we've had a cracker at either ground, if I'm honest, for quite some time. If I'm honest, I can't remember there being many 3-2s or 4-3s between Arsenal and Newcastle. We have to go back a long time. So I'm going to go 1-0 to the Arsenal, mate.
Okay, and we'll end on Warren. What's your prediction for this one?
I'm going to go with a Mourinho 2-0 street fight to the Toon up there.
yes.
2-0. Joe Linton will get one, and Isaac just to rub it in a little bit more.
Love it.
Mate, it's all right. If he scores, it'll just warm him up for giving us more scouting.
Well, not use that out of Champions League and get us in there, so we can get Odegaard.
I love it. Guys, honestly, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on. Warren, it's been brilliant to have you back again. Always welcome on the channel. It's been a pleasure to chat to you. And Potts, of course, you're part of the furniture, you're part of the family, man. Great to have you on the channel as well. Where can people find you, Potts? For those that haven't yet seen it and must be living under a rock, where's your channel at?
Big up, man. Come on. Absolute pleasure coming on. Big up to all you guys. Big up to everybody in the chat. Make sure you hit the like and the subscribe on this one. And make sure on the road to Big 3-0 next. Big up to Warren for coming on. Much appreciated. It's been too long, bro. And football's 12th man. If you do want to come over, we hit 26K last night. So if you do want to come over on the road to the Big 3-0. So big up to everybody. Thank you.
Quality. Nice one. Good stuff. Well, we've given our predictions. People in the chat, you give your predictions as we see it out. That's our preview wrapped up.
Thanks,
we have to end on Isaac, don't we? We have to.
Right, yeah.
Let's do it. Take care.
Good night, everyone. See you soon.
Night. Take care.
Not you, Seb.